What's up, marketing maniacs, and welcome back to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand, your ultimate BFF in the wide world of digital marketing. Join me, your host, Nicholas Kuhner, spilling the beans on the juiciest trends and hottest tips to up your marketing game. So sometimes you look forward to interviews and sometimes you really look forward to interviews. And this is one of the opportunities where as soon as I saw Nancy, I was super excited and I knew we were going to have a marvelous chat. So today we've got Nancy Zare, creator of the Alikeability system. And in her own words, she is the sales whisperer who helps people master their sales processes. So obviously super useful. She's a retired professor, and Nancy earned her master's and doctorate from Boston College, which is very fancy for those of you who don't know. She's the author of 6 books, including an Amazon international bestseller. So whether in a work situation or personal encounter, everyone benefits from learning new approaches for quickly and authentically building rapport, communicating effectively, following up, and becoming a master of sales. So that's what we're going to talk a bit about today, and we're going to focus particularly on the Alikeability system that Nancy has come up with. So Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to speak with you and your audience.
And it's so lovely that you're so bright. I mean, I don't think I'll ever be able to forget this image on my head. I'm actually wearing green, but my room is dark. I've got I thought I'd put a Norwegian touch and have the Aurora Borealis behind us, which is covered by my giant head. But yeah, so we've got some common colors. So Nancy, let's go back to the beginning. In terms of sales, everyone has to sell at some stage, whether it's selling yourself to a life partner, whether it's selling yourself for a job, whether it's selling anything, in your business, trying to get a raise, etc. But you've got a very special background in terms of doing social work. So maybe talk a little bit about how your background has given you sort of a different mindset to people who've traditionally started in sales, secondhand cars, being like David Ogilvy selling Aggo cookers and that. How is your approach different, and why is it better than somebody who's actually selling things?
So yes, I suspect that you and your audience are really selling intangibles. And in essence, that means we're selling ourselves as opposed to a widget, a gadget, something like that. And I appreciate what you said, because I want to candidly confess to you and to your audience that I am not a guru when it comes to sales. I didn't want to sell. As a child, the last occupation I thought that I would be involved in was selling. I wanted to help people. But you know what? That's exactly what sales is about. It's about uncovering whatever pain point or challenge or sticking point that someone has. They're looking for a way to resolve it, and you come along and have a solution. That is helping them. And when I realized that sales is service, it changed my attitude about being a seller.
I love that principle of sales as a service, and that you are helping people, because at the end of the day, we've got limited amount of money and we need obviously goods or services to make our lives better. So we've got to make choices. And I think a lot of people obviously are quite draconian or quite, I'm not sure draconian is the right word, but are quite aggressive when it comes to sales, just selling whatever they've got to whoever they can. And I think the great salespeople, the great brands, the great companies are ones who sell something that's really solving a problem that you've got in your life, and not necessarily a problem, but improving your life. And I can give an example of my beautiful Apple computer. I love it. It's very simple. It's beautiful. It helps me do work. I do tons of things on it. And it was a relatively easy sell over a regular laptop with no Apple brand name. So yeah, I agree with that service aspect. But maybe let's go a little bit further back in terms of your how you came up with this a likability system. Was it an epiphany? or has this been generated over years of experience?
Well, I believe I was born a psychologist, and my parents had a very stormy marriage, and I wanted to help them get along. My earliest memory was listening to their loud voices and the cupboards banging, and it was kind of upsetting and chaotic. When I was around 10 or 11, and I can date that because my oldest brother went to college at that point, so he had left the family. I saw a TV show in which quarreling children were given an opportunity to express what was going on, and lo and behold, that solved the problem. I said, I'm going to use that on my parents. The strangest thing is, Nicholas, they let me. Now they're deceased, and I can't ask them what was going on in their minds. Did they see something in me that suggested I could help them? Possibly. At any rate, at the end of this conversation, both parents were native born English speaking adults, but I translated what I heard each parent say, and I translated it into words that the other one could understand. And this is the basis of what I do now to help people become better at communication. I help you identify the style, the communication style that your prospect or the other person, it could be a family member, um, or it could be a colleague, but by knowing what their style is and changing how you speak, the language you use, you will form a better bond and connection so that people say, wow, you get me, we're alike. And hence, alike ability is the program I started, the system that is a skill that raises the feelings or the perception, the thoughts within the other person of, wow, you get me, we're alike.
You realized at 10 that you had this. So I'm sure you didn't know what a psychologist was when you were 10 years old,
No, I
but
didn't. I didn't.
but you had the skill. Do you think everyone has this skill innately, or is this something that you need to train yourself on? And are you able to actually be trained to understand how to speak to people better?
It's a skill rather than an intuition or a gift. Now, I was gifted in that I had the desire to help my parents, and I was gifted in that I listened carefully to what they were saying. But this is what I teach my clients, that if you observe and listen closely, there are clues constantly that your prospect is giving you about who they are and what they value. Because it's not that you change yourself. You're not changing yourself to, I mean, yes, you're speaking different words, but you're not changing who you are and what you're offering. You're simply changing how you express it. And you're putting it into language that your prospect can easily say, wow, I understand now. And it's speaking to me. Because when you speak directly to their inner soul, that's when you're going to command their attention. And now it's not a matter of what do you charge? It's a matter of I see the value and I want to work with you.
How important is listening in this process?
It's important that you listen, and it's also important that you use your eyes to detect the clues. Everybody asks me about how can you figure out somebody's style? And there are 6 different ways that you can do this, Nicholas. The first is listening, because that may be the first contact you have with someone. Do they talk fast? Do they talk slow? Do they put a lot of pauses, or are they excited with inflection? All of these things are clues about their style. And then visually, how are they dressed? What are they wearing? Buttoned up, close to the neck, or, lots of skin exposed. Do they have plain eyeglasses, no eyeglasses? Are they smiling or kind of like, kind of distant? These are clues about their style. And so this is what I teach my clients to pick up on, to just notice. But of course, once we notice what they are, each of them is associated with a particular style.
So this is quite useful, obviously, for high touch services and products, because it's very difficult to do this with social media and folks who are, spread
No,
around the world, or not. Am I mistaken?
no. You are mistaken because
Aha.
this is why I'm called the sales whisperer, because I will teach you to go to the LinkedIn profile or the web page of your prospect and look them up, because the clues are right there in plain sight without your having to talk to them. And so before you meet them, you look them up and you find out what their style is. And then you're ready right from the get go to make sure that, yes, this is the style. I'm right. And there are 4 styles, by the way. So it's not like there are 100 styles you have to think of. And it's like, I've got a 1 in 100 chance I'm right. No, it's 1 in 4. And as it turns out, Nicholas, 70% of the population actually are 2 or more styles. So therefore, they're going to go back and forth. So you've really got a good chance of nailing it.
This hasn't taken 1 or 2 years to figure out, obviously. This has taken a couple of years of insight, learning. When did you go from, when did it sort of coalesce in your head into a process that you could share with people? How long did that process take you?
So I started my business almost 15 years ago. It's not what it is today, although I was, focused on sales, helping people with selling. And what's happened is that I thought I would teach. As you mentioned, I'm a retired professor. I retired young, and I've been entrepreneurial. So I started a business, and I thought I would teach people. And as it turned out, many people want it done for them. And so I found myself, if you've ever owned a business, your business is like giving birth to a child, because you have an idea, oh, this kid's going to take after me. They're going to be like this, or they're not going to make these mistakes. And you have all these notions in your head about what your kid's going to be. And guess what? They are their own individual. Any parent out there will tell you that, no 2 individuals are the same, right? Well, your business is like that. It's like giving birth, and you find out that the market forces, i.e., what people want to pay for and what seems to attract people, and what is your unique selling proposition. If you haven't heard that expression, it's important. All of these things kind of morph your business in a particular direction. And so you find yourself doing new things. And in my case, the likability system came about maybe year 2 or 3 in my business. And I developed those 5 steps of the likability system. And now I'm realizing that my skills as a sales whisperer and helping to teach you, by the way, it doesn't take years to learn it. Some people learn it very quickly through my publications. I have some books and so forth. I also have a video course. So some people learn it quickly, but once you learn it, you can apply it everywhere. And so the neat thing, Nicholas, is it isn't just for making sales. It's for getting along with the people in your office. It's getting along with the people in the cafe where you get your coffee, or, wherever. It's getting along with family members who prior to that rubbed you the wrong way. So it's amazing how once you understand people's differences, their styles, the communication, now you are in control of having good relationships and good communication.
They should really teach this type of course at school or at undergraduate level, because I feel that this understanding of the customer, this understanding of how other people work,
Mm.
is so important for having a successful life. I think the earlier you do this, is it makes such a difference. Now I'm empathetic in terms of, in my older age, I'm a very good listener. Back to the point of learning these kind of principles, it's really, I don't know why they don't teach more psychology in terms of, group dynamics and understanding body language, and that, especially in the multicultural world that we are operating in now. I think it would make not just work, but life much easier for lots of people.
You're making a great point. And of course, nowadays, where everybody is looking down at their cell phones and their thumbs are twitching and so forth, it's very hard to encourage people to learn the skills of talking to other humans. I mean, even artificial intelligence, AI, is now talking for us rather than our communicating with each other. And we wonder why it is that we're having so so much difficulty making a sale. It's because we're not talking and we're not opening our hearts and connecting with people authentically.
You've been, you said you started your business 15 years ago, and you're obviously working prior to that.
Mhm.
How has, if we look at, we've got millennials, and the next lot of this Gen Y, we've had Gen
Mhm.
Z, now we've got Generation Alpha. So Generation Alpha, for those that don't know, I was looking for that term. What are these folks who are drinking soy lattes and on TikTok, and the younger folks now? After COVID, have you seen a difference in terms of how people are communicating? We've got AI well, ChatGPT that's come out recently. Have you seen a change in communication style from the people that you've worked with?
I think there's a bigger reliance on digital and technological touch points. And again, the whole point of connecting with people is to eventually do what we're doing. Even though you and I are continents apart, nonetheless, in real time, we're having a conversation. And that is missing from many of our interactions. We're sending text messages and emails and other kind of communication. It's digital, but we're not in real time communicating.
Yeah, that is a bit of a challenge, and I think with all of this short attention span that folks have
Mhm.
now, getting those deeper interactions with people and really seeing who they are is much more difficult, because there's a lot of obfuscation going on in terms of what your online persona is versus your real life persona versus your work persona. So those are
I
challenging
am
aspects.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because we do project a persona online, which may not be exactly who you are and your communication style. Actually a good example of that because right now you're seeing me lively, energetic, upbeat. I'm an introvert. Okay. I enjoy my quiet time. I have one or two close friends. I am not this party animal. But for purposes of my business and for purposes of, y my public, persona, I'm wearing a hat, I'm looking like I'm outgoing, etcetera, because that is how I sell better. It's how I connect with people initially to get your attention. But again, you wouldn't stick with me if there weren't something inside and authentic that you wanted to connect. And so, there is a facade that we put up, and then there is who we really are, right?
And I think everyone has that. It's not necessarily Jekyll and Hyde. One is a nice one, another one's a horrible one. It's just perhaps one is a reflection of who you would like to be seen as versus that imposter who is inhabiting this
Right.
flesh
Right. It's
suit that we've
not
got.
about an imposter.
Yeah. So let's go back to the sales process, because I think a lot of people think sales is, those who haven't been in sales or have been in a specific type of sales role see sales as a very linear process. And when you talk about no pressure selling, when we look at lead generation, when we look at compelling selling, so I have a look here, simple and profitable techniques for effective, efficient sales conversations. Those sales conversations are before the sale. A sale doesn't just magically, you don't talk to say, hey, I've got a product, we'd like to buy it. There's a whole customer journey process that goes along. Maybe talk to me, where does this process fit, your process of a likability fit in the sales process?
Well, it's all through the sales process because you have to start obviously with lead generation. I mean, none of us come we have to do something to generate leads. We buy a list or we start making connections, by going to networking events, whatever it is we do to start meeting people and getting a list. The list, of course, is leads. And there's a difference between a lead and a prospect. See, a lead is simply, I've got the name and contact information, but we don't know whether that person has an interest in what you are offering, whether they have the means to buy it, and whether the timing is even right. So there's so many variables going on. A prospect is someone for whom the answers are yes. Not only is this person, you've got the information, but they are actually genuinely interested in what you have to offer, and that they have the means to go ahead and work with you, as well as the fact that, yes, they want to get this solved and get your solution now. So once you go from generating leads, which is the beginning of the sales process, to talking to prospect. Well, how do you find out someone's a prospect? That's a conversation. It's a sales conversation, but you're not selling yourself. You're sorting whether or not the person is curious or serious. And once you find out that the person's serious, now they move into the category where the next time you have a conversation, it's going to deepen and move towards the possibility of doing business together. But initially, so that there is a process, and you need to know there are 4 steps in that process. The opening step, then the fact-finding step, which is where you begin to probe and find out whether, what's going on, what are their pain points, what are they hoping will happen in the future. And then at that point, once you have figured out, and both of you agree, this is the issue I want to solve, then do I have the right solution for that issue? That's step 3. If I do, then I present it to you. And the 4th step is simply asking for us to do business together if it makes sense. So those are 4 steps, and you need to keep them in mind. They're not sequential. They're not linear, as you said a moment ago. They can circle back. And so this is where you need to know where your prospect is, because you have to be with your prospect. You can't push them, but you can pull them through attraction to move forward in that process.
So this process is basically duplicated when one looks at Google Ads, LinkedIn Ads, and any of these ad platforms. They actually outline these processes quite clearly, exactly as you've mentioned. And I suppose part of your process would be generating content for each of these steps. So making sure that you've got the right script or the right messaging at at each of those stages that you mentioned. Do you go through that in your Alikeability system or in any of your other books?
So when you say to have the right messaging, it all comes down again to understanding the 4 personality styles, the 4 communication styles, because you need to use the language that will connect with your prospect authentically. And that runs through the entire sales process. So hence the likability system starts with identify those 4 styles. What are their values? How can I, what makes them different one from another? Second step is, what's your style? Why do you need to know that? Because you sell the way you buy. This is typically that we project onto our prospect our own values and our own way of communicating and making decisions. You need to know what that is, because you're turning off lots of people when you are stuck in only one style. The third is, how do I diagnose my prospect style? I mentioned things like the vocal qualities and the appearance. The fourth is, now I need to adjust what I say now that I know their style, and use the values, use the language that connects with them quickly and authentically. And finally, the 5th step is going back to my own style. I need to rein in certain aspects that are not a match with that prospect. So, for example, there's some people, because of the used car salesman, that I'm slick and I'm quick and I'm going to be telling you it, stop. Well, it's a turnoff, right? You got to rein that in. Your enthusiasm is good because energy sells. But when that energy is kind of exaggerated and hype, it's a turnoff. So this is what I mean by step 5.
A lot of people are going to be using ChatGPT and AI to generate these sales messages. Why do you think you will still have a job post now that ChatGPT out there can just generate authentic sounding messages?
So there's one thing to generate an authentic sounding message from my voice. It's another thing to generate that message that connects with the prospect. Remember, there are 4 styles, 4, communication styles. And so chat GPT is trying to learn the styles. There are some tools out there, and I'll tell you why they are stumbling and making big mistakes. 2 big reasons. One is the fact that as 70% of the population use 2 or more styles. And so ChatGPT is only identifying one style, and it may not be the buying style. Why is that? Because mistake number 2 is that the persona that we're projecting may not be the actual buying style. And so ChatGPT is reading that style. AI is reading the projected style and not actually knowing our style. And then here's the kicker that comes in when we actually have a conversation. Because for most of us, unless we are that Apple computer, people are not going online to buy. They are going to have a conversation with us, and we're going to determine whether it's a good fit, both on their point of view and our point of view. And so at that point, now you use your vocal qualities, because people will socially be one style and then decision-making revert to a different style. And how do you know? Their voice changes. Now they're serious, contemplative, because money's going to, be transacted. And they're not real sure yet whether they buy your value. And so they pull back. And you're thinking, oh, we had a great rapport, right? That we were talking back and forth. And their buying style is not the one that you thought it was. And that's where your auditory skill needs to come into play.
Well, you've just brought in my head. I just had Ursula from The Little Mermaid saying, "And don't forget the importance of the body language," uh, which is one of them. She's got such a marvelous voice, and it is that being able to take those body language cues and audio cues, like you mentioned those vocal cues, is so important. And I think that's what separates again the great salespeople versus the hacks or the used car salesman. I've got nothing against used car salesmen. I think there's obviously a need for all sorts of communication styles, and sometimes people want to be harangued. Sometimes people want to have a fight and negotiate over something, which I found when I lived in Nigeria. Everyone loves haggling and fighting over the price, so it's part of the experience of going to the market. Now, Nancy, before we go, what is something that would surprise folks about you other than your marvelous green hat?
What would probably surprise people is that I have a heavy foot on the gas pedal. And I would love to go to drive on the Autobahn, because that way there would be no speed limits, and I could happily just press my foot down to the floor and see what happens. Um, Unfortunately, here in the United States where I live, there are usually speed limits. And I have been stopped more than once. I'm confessing. And I was sent to driver re-education school. Okay, yes, I know. I was sent to driver re-education school to learn how to remove my foot from the pedal.
But you see, in America, you've only got 2 pedals. In Europe, there's generally 3 pedals because we've got what's called a
The clutch,
yeah,
I drove on a clutch car, so I learned that way. So yes, I
the
love
proper
that
way, the
clutch.
right way.
I love to change gears.
Yeah. Well, you should probably go to Italy then and go into not doesn't have to be speed, but you can use your gear changing to go up those little awesome little mountain
Oh
paths in
yes.
there. So that's marvelous. I wanted to mention that you've got such a marvelous voice. I could imagine you being a voice coach as well and teaching people how to enunciate beautifully and speak. Because folks don't speak very well often, and I just love that you have such a proper way of speaking. I really have enjoyed speaking to you. So, and it's my ears are enjoying it as well. So I just wanted to let you know that as well. So hopefully your audio book is spoken by you. Yes, narrated by
I
you.
did.
Oh,
am
excellent.
I am the person who read the book.
So, talking about that, where can I send folks to learn a little bit more about you and to download or listen to one of your 6 books?
So, of course, Amazon and Audible are where you could go if you want to, and I do believe you might even get an electronic version at almost peanuts, like no price. So, feel free to go there. I have a dedicated website or at least a link to my publications. It's Nancy, Nancy books with an S, a plural, link. And so if you go there, you will also have access to some of my books.
Brilliant. Well, I'll be sending folks to that link. So to be on the description in either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. So you can click on that and find your way to Nancy's books. Nancy, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, and I look forward to learning some of those communication styles and sharing it with my students as well. I think any young person, the sooner you learn how to communicate with other people, we think we know how to communicate with other people, but how we think is very different to how our fellow humans communicate. But it's not that complicated if you've got the right steps and processes which we can get from yourself, for example. So, Nancy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Now, before we wrap up, don't forget to show some love for From Startup to Wunderbrand by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. If you'd like to help us grow, tell your friends, share on social media, and leave us a review. For those of you who want to dive a little bit deeper into the topic, join me on Twitter @NickCooner. Let's connect and chat about all things branding and digital. Until next time,